Uh, and you've done an awful lot in your young life. And do you have living parents?
Yes, my parents are alive. They are 62 years old, both of them, and they are still alive.
Well, 62 is very young, you know. I was 31 years old when they were born. So, you know, and you have brothers and sisters?
I have a wonderful younger sister. She was born in 1995, just 2 days after the peace agreement was signed in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So she was like kind of, for us, she was a sign of peace
And
for
the
our
gift.
family. And the gift, yes, the
Yeah.
biggest gift of my life.
Well, because you were really born into conflict.
I was born 4 years before the conflict, and when I was four, the war started, and then the war took 3.5 years, and my sister, as I said, was born just around the last days of the war. So we were happy as a family to enter the war as three and exit the war as four of us.
Yeah, well, you know, your beautiful museum, which is so touching, so amazing, and so courageous, so visionary, reminded me of uh, when I was actually, I was about four, maybe five, you know, I was born in 1930. And so in my memory, the first thing that I remember as was the joy of Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, that my parents were listening to every night to find out what's happening about Hitler. And it was always in my memory around that age, 4 or 5, that I started feeling the refugees who came through Budapest and stayed with us overnight, or you know, the very nature of uh, instability, that how a child perceives the fear of things changing, or perceives um, the nervousness, the fear, the anticipation of the parents who are not saying much to a 4, 5, or 6 year old, but you feel there is the earth is removed from under your feet, and you brought it back to me. The one item that had most triggered memory is the chessboard, because when we were in hiding, and by then I was an older woman, I was 14, uh, my parents were paid off a policeman, and they hid my parents and a friend in, it's a very blue collar, fairly poor neighborhood. And I was in hiding at the Scottish Institute, where the head of the Scottish Institute decided that saving Jewish children is more important than educating the world, and started taking in Jewish kids and Jewish families to hide them. And yes, darling, thank you. Let me put it down. Yes. There's nothing better than a good husband who brings you a good cup of coffee. Thanks, love. I appreciate being a fantastic wife. Anyhow, I guess the story needs a background. I come from a very comfortable financially and otherwise family. And anyhow, so my mother and father decided that the Scottish Institute, which was a school, a boarding school, would be a good place to leave leave me. And they went into hiding, and I didn't know where. I knew there was somewhere near Budapest, but didn't really know where it was. And then when the woman who ran the Scottish woman, Jane Heining, is the only Scottish woman who was in Auschwitz and was killed in Auschwitz because she was hiding Jews. And the cook's son was stealing food. And when Jane Heining reprimanded him, he went to the SS headquarters denouncing, and they came, they took Jane, and etc. And then not too long thereafter, they came to take us to first to the ghetto and then the camp. And I managed not to go, which is a story that I told many a times. And yeah, the chessboard. So there was a little boy whom I grabbed and took with me when I escaped. And so when we finally found my mother and his mom in this very, very blue color, poor neighborhood in one room, everybody. And then the air raid started. The Americans started bombing every night. So we were told that we all have to be in the cellar. And the air raid shelter, there were about 100 people living in that building. And they were all um, Nazi sympathize. They were who they were. And there was no way for us not to stick out a bit. But what really made us suspicious, and they started looking into who we are, and had the Russians not come in that day when they did, they were on their way to the police to tell them that they think we are Jews. And what gave us away mostly, according to them, was that we played chess. All we had, that 10-year-old boy and I was 14. We had nothing. We lived in an air raid shelter. We had bread and water, and we had a chessboard. And neither one of us were good chess players. I still am not. I haven't managed it. But what else was there? Whatever we did, it was that chessboard. And day and night we stayed in that shelter. And that was the only thing we had that was not just sitting there. There were no books. There was nothing. We were kids and everybody else was grown-ups. And it was lucky because had there been other kids, they would have figured it out sooner that we were Jews. So that chessboard really brought back all those memories, and thinking of, I came away from Hungary with nothing. I have no um, mementos, souvenirs, and it's okay, you know. But having left my country, 72 years ago, I left, whatever. I left in 1948, so I was 18 years old. And having lived around a bit, um, I don't find that my Hungarian identity has enriched me. Certainly the culture has remained with me. I finished gymnasium there, I was my first 18 years. So I had a family then, but it is sort of so interesting to see how your museum enriched my past, reminded me of things, and that is very lovely. And it's almost impossible to understand why and how you did it, except that you must have known many people who needed to have a past, a reminder.
Thank you so much for sharing these memories. And you could notice that I have a smile on my face. And the reason why I have it is because some people would, when faced with these stories and memories, they would mostly feel sadness. But for me, listening about, for example, the universality of these chessboards that served as a toy for kids in different contexts, during different conflicts, in different times of different hardship, is uh, always, for me, it's also a sign how many things we share in different parts of the world, different countries. And this is something what I really learned through the work on creation of the War Childhood Museum, because when I first started working, I was mostly collecting stories, memories, and objects from people around me, my friends, people from my city, from my generation. But then as project expanded, and as we started working in other countries, different contexts, and started collecting new stories and objects, I started clearly noticing so many common aspects of the experience, or so many similar stories, memories. And I understood that someone who has been a refugee, for example, during the Second World War, and someone who is maybe today a refugee from Syrian war, would maybe have a closer and more similar stories and memories than two people from the same street if they didn't share similar experience. You know what I mean? So that's why I was smiling listening to your memories of the chessboard from your childhood, and thank you so much for sharing this.
Well, the one thing that I'm sharing with you, but I wasn't planning on, is the chickens, the rooster and the cock that seems to be announcing territorial behavior, which I never noticed before. I think maybe I have to move to another place because if you want this recording to exist, you probably want to have more of our voices than the chickens.
However you feel, if you enjoy that sun there, I don't mind about. I don't think they will also mind about chickens. But if you feel like going in, whatever
But
you are
I
comfortable.
I just feel very concerned that here we are creating a recording, and the most important sound that is consistent is a chicken. I
But
didn't, you know, I never sit out here in the morning because it's cool, but I just wanted to find a secluded, quiet place where we are not disrupted. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be lovely to do the garden? So I never heard this consistent chickenry before because I've never been. What's that sound?
I don't know.
The bell rang. Yeah. I am not happy with my computer situation today. I've been trying, my husband lost his Apple Watch, and we've been trying to track it down and trace it without any success. And now I sort of feel that there's some sinister motives in the computer when it makes noises. What is it trying to tell me? However, let's give it another couple of minutes, and if it remains silent, that would be lovely. Because I'm sure they made all the announcement they wanted to make, the chickens.
Maybe they don't like me, so they are
Well,
protesting for.
I that I don't think they met you or me that much. Earlier, years ago, when I was more able to walk, I would sort of climb up to the and visit the chickens and the geese. But I can't do that anymore, so they don't know me at all. And I only know them just today because of their sound.
So Eva, you are in San Francisco?
No,
No,
uh,
where are you?
in our life, there's never one sentence that explains anything. It's always complicated. We are in Carpinteria, and that is like 10 miles south of Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And we have a place in Santa Barbara, and but we are staying with our friends who have a big ranch. Aha, with chickens and geese. and avocado orchards and every fruit you can imagine that you can grow in places that are not Sarajevo. You know, it's passion fruit and persimmon, and chirimoya and sapote, probably words that don't even come into the vocabulary.
Some of them, yes, but that sounds wonderful, as a wonderful place to be during the pandemic.
What happened? Now what do I do? Oh God, I don't want that. Now what? How do I get back?
You are here, I see you.
Yeah, but I don't see you.
You don't see me?
No, I see crystal clear audio even if the lingo isn't. Now what do I do? I hate that. How do I get back to you?
I don't know what happened. You are using your laptop
I'm on my laptop, yeah.
and someone called
I
on your
got
laptop?
you. I got you.
Okay,
You are very
okay,
big. Good.
good, good.
Okay. Okay, yes, somebody called me, but I'm trying to undo it. Okay, I undid it. Now this feels like a major achievement. Oh my God, I feel victorious. I'm sorry. Yes, so our dear friends have this ranch where they live on, and it's so much better than being in an apartment and being in quarantine and not being able to go anywhere. Here we don't have to leave the property, but feel that we can walk down and visit the cows and then the geese or the goats. There's a lot of opportunity, and so we are staying with them. And we I have so much work that I'm involved with that it doesn't feel it barely ever do I notice that we haven't left the property. It's okay. It's okay.
How busy you are, like nowadays? Are you
Same as before, doesn't change. I serve on 12 boards, and so that communicating with 12 organizations, and during COVID, when each of them have faces so much pain and disruption, so I'm fairly busy with that. And then if it's nothing else, then Anis and Pooja and Werner and all those people do manage to keep me awake at night. And yeah, I am busy. I'm uh, not bored. But yes, we are planning to go to San Francisco next month, for the months of May and June. And mostly it feels that when our friends invited us to come and live with them here on the ranch, I think nobody thought about how much time, how long is the invitation for? Well, we've been here 8 months, and that's sort of like at some point I woke up and I said, just because they are lovely and kind and generous doesn't mean that I have to accept it all without saying, hey, enough is enough. So we rented a place up near San Francisco in Marin County in Tiburon, where my husband has 4 or 5 of his kids live in that area, so that I have to think about what we do or where we do it, because I cannot do, we have to face the fact that our minds are independent, our bodies are dependent. And we do have to plan on the kindness of people, that they will come and they will help us shop or help us move stuff or drive. We decided that when we got to be 85, we decided that we could become a public danger keeping on driving. And so we gave up cars. And when you live in California, transportation is very meaningful because the distances are so great, and you have to plan your life based on traffic and distances and lots of other intangibles. So we decided that um, we are going to give an opportunity to my husband's children to be good children and take good care of us. But only for 2 months because, um, you don't want to test the character of people unless you have to.
And can I ask you, in to what extent have you felt the psychological pressure that came with the pandemic? How are you, and how do you feel about all of this? What happened over the last
Uh,
year and a half year?
but first of all, I take it personally. When you get to be 90 or, sort of old, you think of time as not stretchable. You know, when you at your age, you say to yourself, "Well, the pandemic kept me from going to travel, or the pandemic has kept me from making certain business arrangements." But you also say to yourself at the same time, "Well, it's too bad, but I'll do it next year or the year after." Your time is stretchable, expendable. Mine isn't. So my first reaction to the pandemic and the fact that uh, we are not able to go or to do whatever was, hey, this was taken from us. The time of the pandemic took away from us the opportunities of things that we could have done that are not replaceable because the muscles work less, the brain works less, the body works less each year. And therefore, each year you have to say to yourself, this I cannot do any longer. That I cannot do any longer. And then you say to yourself, okay, that's bad. That's too bad. But I can still do the following. And so you replace your dreams and you replace your actions based on what you are able to do, based on nature's own. And so that was my first reaction to a pandemic. The next thing was, okay, uh, how can we make life as productive as possible under the conditions? And so we realized that we need to be more thoughtful about being helpful. And mainly I think what happens is that our ego, our self-image is so connected with our daily activities. And suddenly the pandemic made it look like, hey, we cannot validate ourselves anymore. And self validation comes from extending ourselves to others, to plan on activities that benefit others, to make ourselves feel validated and feel good about who we are. We need to do that by extending ourselves to causes, to people, to circumstances. And until the day you die, you have to be an architect, a master builder. You have to keep on realizing and thinking that in order to feel good about who you are, it's not something that you can do once a year. Self validation is something you do every day. From your waking moment, you say to yourself, so what am I planning to do today? How will I make a difference? And the making of difference, as you so well know yourself, is an everyday labor. And you can't be happy that you did something for a very long time. You have to do something every day. No. And so in some way I do more than I did before the pandemic because I have more time.
Yeah, it
And
also happened to me that I probably managed to do more, although in different circumstances. But yeah, definitely a bit more time.
you are, I was told that you are a successful entrepreneur. What does that mean?
It means that before I devoted my life to the museum, I was mainly in business, different businesses. I invested in digital marketing businesses, in printing businesses, also in transportation and tourism businesses. So as museum happened to me, and it was not planned in my life, I never imagined myself in the museum world or non-for-profit world at all. But this work on the book War Childhood just somehow took me and my life, and the cause and responsibility became so big that I decided to devote my life to it. But I still kept, I didn't keep most of these business involvements, but I kept a couple of investments. So I still co-own one transportation company, which I started before.
What is a transportation company?
We are a leading shuttle service provider for airport transportation in our country, and also we do a bit in the region.
So you were affected by the pandemic in terms of travel and
Yeah, my businesses were very badly affected, but this was not the major source of my stress. The major source was that museum was also badly affected by the pandemic, because the way I created this museum was always somehow uh, it was I brought my entrepreneurial spirit to the War Childhood Museum's foundations. And since the very beginning, my goal was to create a self-sustainable museum, which will not be fully dependent on donors or government or whatever. And of course, I did not manage to make a fully self-sustainable museum, first because it's still relatively young, and second because the museum is growing and expanding so quickly that it is impossible to do this without additional fuel from and resources from donors. But I did make what I managed to achieve was 25% of own revenues in our annual budgets. And of course, when the pandemic started, as most of this was coming from ticket sales and souvenir sales, it just disappeared overnight. And also some donors canceled their grants. So by April 2020, the museum lost 41% of 2020 budget. And then I needed to fundraise additionally and to fight to keep all jobs safe, because we didn't have any reserves or endowment before the pandemic, because the museum was opened only in 2017. So we are very dynamic and very young institution, but still without any reserves or endowment. But we managed, thankfully to our donors, we saved all the jobs, and we even expanded some activities, and in the end the budget was bigger than planned, and this year is also okay. So we are stable and growing every day with new offices in different countries. And recently actually we incorporated an office in New York City.
did you? How
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes, in December we incorporated office in New York City with the goal to, because in Europe, museum already won several awards, and there we have a very good visibility within the museum sector. But this is very unbalanced with the US, and a lot of funding comes from the US to us. And also, I think our work and the voice of the War Childhood Museum is very much needed in the US as well, and in not only in the US, but in Americas in general. So that's why we decided to open this office in New York, which will, short term, it will build the visibility of the War Childhood Museum there. Midterm, it will implement first activities. We will have tour of our.
Yes, dear. What is it? You have enough coffee. Oh no, did you want your cell phone, honey? Sure. Why don't you take it? Okay, here you go. Okay. You want more coffee? Sorry, No, I'm fine, honey. I'm fine. Thank you. No, go back to when you opened in New York. I was wondering, what did you open in New York? What does it mean to open an office in New York?
It's a very small office. Just we created an organization. We incorporated there. Now we are obtaining 503c nonprofit status to be able to receive tax deductible donations as well, because until now we were not able to receive this. And then we will employ the first employee, and this small office will work on establishing partnerships network. And next year it will start preparing our exhibition tour, and we already have some exhibitions. We are negotiating first exhibitions. For example, the first exhibition in 2023 will be in Illinois Holocaust Museum. So we will have tours of exhibitions, and then we will see how this develops, how the network develops, how the relationships with different communities develop, how organization relates to the communities, what's the feedback on our exhibitions, because now the collection of the museum is very diverse. We have objects and stories from all over the world, from dozens of different conflicts. So we know that in New York City and other bigger cities in the US, there are many communities whose childhoods have been affected by different conflicts around the world. And we know that our exhibition will be relevant to many communities. So we want to see how this works. If we establish a good relations with communities, if we see that we can replicate some of the impact we have in Europe to the US, and we believe we can, then a long-term goal is also opening a permanent museum in New York.
Wow.
I know it sounds ambitious and we are still relatively small, but I like to think big, and I believe that the day when I decided to devote my life to this cause and to this museum, I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe that it can become a global platform for everyone who shares this experience, and not only for me or for you, but really for so many people whose childhoods have been affected by different conflicts. And I still believe in this firmly, and I work all day to get there.
And you are surprised that it works so well, eh?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I feel really I feel privileged to work with such a team, and also to have a support from so many wonderful people from around the world that are able to either identify with what we do, either to just support because they feel it's that we are creating an important platform, which is also an important voice for peace. And I think being a part of this greater community, which museum brought together, is how to say, gives a real purpose to my life.
You know, as you were speaking, I wondered what is your involvement with what Joyce Di Donato is doing, the new program called Eden.
Can you repeat that? I'm not familiar with it probably, but can you repeat?
You know Joyce Di Donato? Joyce Di Donato is an opera singer,
Okay,
and
I know.
and she has a new program called Eden, the Garden of Eden,
Okay, I will write that down. I didn't know about this.
and she is just in the very beginning of it. A couple of years ago, she did a program called War and Peace, and I think it's something that you might want to look at.
I will definitely. I took a note, so I will definitely look at it.
Of Handel and Vivaldi that she made into a, a war and peace, almost like a museum in music and in words. And she created it right after Trump was elected. And it has so many references to the inhumanity that was created by the Trump administration, the war and then the peace. Anyhow, she's now creating this new program called Eden, and Anis and Pooja and Werner from those names are familiar to you, right?
Yes, yes,
You
I
know,
know. Yeah, I know them. Yes, yes.
yeah, and you know Portico,
Yes, the Porticus is one of our donors. Yes.
right? That's Werner, right?
Yes, yes, I know. Yeah.
Okay, so they are deeply involved is Eden, and it just seemed to me that the museum. Do you have any musical memories, mementos that you can be related to what Eden is about? How the arts, how music relates to our sanity, our survival, our humanity, is what your museum is about.
It's
So
true.
therefore,
And in our collection, we have many objects, and there are some things connected to music,
instruments, right,
but
right.
also to other. Yeah, there are many stories that speaks about importance of arts and culture in these times.
And I think that you should take a look at what the outline, the story of Eden is, and how it's going to be created, and what it means, and how it will travel and tour. So it might very well have something in common, very much in common, not something, but very much in common with you and your work.
Thank you
And
for suggesting that. I will gladly check it out.
yeah. Now, how much of your time do you devote to business?
Not much lately. Not much since the museum is opened. Maybe just 2-3 hours per month.
I think, can't you do more?
Uh, the museum is really dynamic and developing really quickly, and I don't want to. It's much more important for me today than my business involvements, and also I have partners that take good care for business. So I think museum needs me more now than my businesses. So I'm gladly devoting almost all time to the museum.
I think that that's wonderful. I just do believe that the future of the museum so much depends on funding, on money that you can have. And at some point, you realize that fundraising is very unpleasant and very time consuming. And it's a lovely way to be able to funnel as much as possible from your earnings, but your earnings should be coming from your business because the museum will never be self-sustaining. You know that.
I know that. I know that. I'm aware of that, and that's yeah. When we were just creating the museum, I relied a lot on resources of my friends and me, and I think in the future we will also try to provide more resources to the museum. I'm working on that as well. I agree with you.
Yeah, I raised so many funds for so many institutions, and I find that the best museum, like the museum, the Ruben Museum of Asian Art, um, which is a very beautiful, beautiful museum with the most amazing examples of Asian Himalayan art, was really created by a man whose passion it was to collect it and then give it away. But it was his many millions of dollars that he earned. And he was very disappointed, actually, that he couldn't fund, that people don't recognize the fact that they should support the museum because people feel, well, Donald is so rich, he can support his own museum. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is, isn't it wonderful that uh, he didn't have to have 20 people hired to fundraise? He can have less because he depends less on funds. Foundation grants are important because that takes you to educational places. Individual fundraising is a pain in the neck
Mm.
and not reliable. And therefore I recommend that you should just keep it in front of your eye that you want to be a multimillionaire at all times.
I'm not, but I do plan to become. So hopefully, this could also be provide some security to the future of the museum and uh,
That's right.
improve its sustainability prospects.
Yeah.
But as you said, also we are much more focused on foundation funding than the grants, project grants. So so far we did well, but obviously I know that we need to do much more in the future. So it will be a lot of challenge, but I'm also I'm lucky that I managed to bring good team together. So I'm not alone anymore. Now there is a 15 around 15 people full time and helping me to achieve our goals. So I hope we'll get there.
That's quite a big staff for a museum.
Well, I mean, I think we need more, so I hope to hire more in the next year or two because new offices are opening and we need more staff. But yes, it's very there are rewards on everyday basis, as you mentioned, through interactions with people, like with you today, listening to the stories, reading just impressions in the visitors book at the museum. It provides you this everyday sense of, okay, this what we do is important, and let's keep working. And this is a good way to go.
Well, what you are doing is enormously important. And the idea of thinking of all the children who got stuck in cages in the border in the United States, whose parents are not available to them, don't even know where they are or who they were. Uh, you're documenting childhood in that way is a very valuable tool. It's an enormously important tool. And so I am not trying to minimize it when I'm trying to make you make money and be a businessman. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, it's the opposite. I'm trying to tell you that what you are doing is mind blowing, has not been done before. It is totally important because the childhoods that were lost, the support, the love, the kindness, the memories are generations that have lost it, who have no idea of how to regain any of it. And the museum gives us the opportunity to get a glimpse of our past, get a glimpse of our future, and that's what you are doing. So yeah, I congratulate you. I think that having your museum is important everywhere because everywhere we are, the cruelty and the misery that we are creating in our country here by black lives don't matter, Asian lives don't matter, Jewish lives don't matter. It's hard to know who matters. And how can we keep the idea that we matter alive if not starting with childhood?
Thank you so much. Thank you for uh, putting it so nicely and also for reminding me uh, again how lucky I am to be working on this cause. And I will listen to your advice and I will try to do as
Just
much as
make a lot
possible.
of money. How did you come up with the idea? Why? How?
So Actually, I always wanted to do something about this topic and this experience of childhood in war, because I felt after the war finished in our country, there were hundreds of different projects about war, different books, films, different things. And they were coming from different perspectives. Politicians would have their perspectives presented, soldiers, journalists, but I felt that there is this gap and there is not much being documented and presented from children's perspective. And as I was also part of this generation, I always wanted to do something about that, because aside from business, I was always kind of involved with publishing and culture. And I published 2 books before this war childhood book as well. And then I said, okay, I will do the book on this topic, but I didn't want to focus it on my experiences, because we already had some personal diaries published, which were very successful and well known. Some of them, like Zlata's diary, translated to 30 languages or so. So I thought, let's try to make a book which will rather be open for others, for the whole generation. And I did this website with a very short question: what was the war childhood for you? And I also limited answers to 160 characters, so like tweets or text messages. And then hundreds of people started responding. And that's how I made the book, which I would gladly send you a copy if you would accept.
I would love it.
Yes, then I will just need your address, but maybe Puya can give me your address.
I don't think Puya knows my address, because I don't know. Um, I think what I will do is I will send her or send you, I don't have your email address, but send you one of our kids' address in San Francisco.
Okay.
And because that's where we are gonna be going to.
That's very good. And
I would love to see anything that is in English that we could share amongst educators. Uh, look up My Hero Project.
Okay.
I think you should be part of My Hero Project to have you on the website.
I will look up, I will check it out. And yes, so during the work on this book, I was communicated with hundreds of these people who submitted their memories. And through this communication, it was that the idea for the museum was born, because some of these people would also send me emails and shared some drawings, letters, some personal belongings that they preserved. And that's how I understood that many of them tend to connect their memories to physical objects, to personal belongings. And that's when I started thinking, okay, this could be a museum. And also this should be a museum, because I thought museum is much more sustainable than the book. And I mean, the books are forever, but also they are not open forever in a way. And the museum can be this place of meeting, place of dialogue, place which is long-term remaining open and interactive. And that's why I opted for the museum. But obviously it took me some time first to get the book project done, to publish the book, to feel the feedback and the response from the community. And it was that feedback and response which actually encouraged me to take the project to the next stage and to start creating the collection for the museum. And that's also when I also invited other people to join me and formed a small team. So I was working on the book alone, but when I decided to take it to the next stage and create the museum, obviously I also started forming the team, finding some resources, and it started developing from 2015. And then in 2017, we opened our first permanent exhibition. And it became very important place for not only for us working at the museum, but also for our audiences, our participants who contributed with their memories and objects. And I really hope we will be able to bring it to other people as well.
You know, I was thinking as you were talking about Rwanda, that civil war, that horror, that Holocaust. And they have a museum showing the misery.
I was there.
Okay.
I was able to visit it, and it also reminded me a lot about Srebrenica, because you know that in Bosnia we had the Srebrenica genocide, which took place in July 1995, and also the War Childhood Museum did one project about Srebrenica, which was specifically documenting children's experiences. And this was the first project which was systematically trying to document experiences of children from Srebrenica. So this is one of many projects we did, and I do have plans to do something in Rwanda as well, but we still did not manage.
What about in South Africa, in Johannesburg, the museum?
I have never been there.
Yeah, I mean, the world is yours, and the world is big,
And there
and
is so much to do.
and I will be very happy to help you with ideas of whom to contact in what place whenever you are ready for it. And how old are you?
What do you think how old I am?
Well, you look 18, but you probably are 35.
I am actually 32.
Okay, so I was there.
That was a good guess, yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that I look 18. I had a haircut a couple of days ago, so maybe it's because of that.
Yeah, but if you remove the mustache and the beard, you will look 18. With the mustache, you look maybe 30. Yeah.
Thank you for offering help, and I'm this kind of person that when offered help, I often take on the offer. So just you know that I might be.
I think
Contact me.
that is the basis of success, because nobody can do anything alone. Nobody. And so it's question of how deeply are you committed to achieve something. If you are deeply committed, then you accept help, then you look for help, then you take help.
Yes, it's true. And when people ask me, is there a secret behind the museum's success? I say it's not secret. It's just that there are so many people offering to support and help the War Childhood Museum. And that's, if there is a secret, that's the secret. And I always accept that help. So yes.
So what literature do you have in English?
So we have the War Childhood book. So the museum is kind of
Or
based on
any
this book.
brochure? Do you have any brochure in English?
Yes, we have, of course, we have exhibition proposal in English, which is we already sent it to a couple of museums where we know people. And there is also there are a couple of people in the US helping us with this. We also have a small board in the US, which is, we are now in the process of developing the board. So now we have the small initial board, which has, which is 4 members. One of them is from Save the Children, one is from Human Rights Watch. And now we are planning to trying to create a structure of the future board, because we see this as an important step now. And at the same time, we are okay.
Human Rights Watch. Uh, Look up the board of directors of Human Rights Watch. I think Shelley Rubin is a board member.
Okay.
And who is your board member from Human Rights Watch?
It's Bruce Rabb. He's a lawyer and he's also a board member there.
And very rich.
I don't know if he is rich.
He is very rich. Take my word for it.
Okay, so you know, I don't know, because it was.
Yeah.
I will tell you. I was looking for a lawyer to help me to incorporate the office in the US, and I was talking to our partners, and one of our partners are International Coalition of Sites of Consciousness, and I asked them, "Do you have a lawyer who could help me? Because commercial lawyers ask me for $20,000. I don't want to pay for this." And they said, yes, we have a lawyer, and they connected me to Bruce. And there was a very good connection between me and him, and he started really liking the museum. And then he offered his help, and I invited him to the board, and he accepted. So I don't know if he is rich
I
or
think
not,
he
but
knows me. I think he knows me. Try it out.
okay.
We are not friends or something, but I remember meeting him a couple of times.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that he remembers me, but I would be surprised if he doesn't.
Okay. I will mention him that we spoke.
But Shelley Rubin, look her up because I would send her some material. She and her husband created the Rubin Museum of Asian Art.
Hmm.
It's a big connection.
Okay. Thank you for that. I will also ask Bruce about this.
Bruce knows Shelley,
Yeah, he should because they are together on the board. So
but even if they wouldn't, he would know her.
okay.
Trust me, they would.
So yes, Bruce is one of these people that, as I said, I was lucky to get help from. So I really think that this is the major strength of the War Childhood Museum, that it attracts uh, nice people who want to invest some time and effort and to contribute to the cause. And I think uh, this is I don't know if it is. I don't think it's luck, but it's very good for the museum.
It's luck also. Luck is an important part of everything.
It is.
It's a luck that I don't know that I met uh, that a dear friend of mine, Daniel Schwartz, introduced me to Werner because Daniel was the president of Porticus. And he introduced me to Werner. Werner then introduced me to Anis. Anis introduced me to Poya. Through them, I met Joyce Di Donato. And that were the luck part. And then the rest of it is not luck. What is not luck is hard work and connecting and caring and wanting and sharing. That is work. But the idea of talking to somebody and say, oh yeah, let me think, whom do I know that you should know? That's where the luck comes in. And then what you do with it, that's hard work. That's not luck.
I agree with you. It's always a mix.